Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
I hope that you are all enjoying my delivering 2 or 3 videos that are shorter. I am getting some comments that a lot of you like the shorter, some of you like the longer, and I'm also getting people that are asking, they're asking me to tell them stories. Every once in a while, I might throw something in at the end of talking about XRP and Ripple, having to do with just something that's happened to me or just a general motivational type story. I have a good many of them. And so I also had, the other day I had someone who wanted me to reference them to which video it was that I told a certain story, and I honestly could not remember which one it was. And so what I decided I'm going to do is, from now on in the titles of my videos, at the end, if I told any kind of story of significance that doesn't have anything to do with Ripple, if you're interested in those type of things, I'll put in parentheses a title that lets you know there is a little story that I tell in the video. For instance, today I'm going to tell you one of my better stories, which is I call the check story, and I think it might inspire many of you out there. It inspires me to this day. I'm still in disbelief about that one, and I'll tell you that one here shortly. First, I wanted to go over SBI, what's going on with them. There are so many new subscribers coming in every day now that I want to make sure that everybody understands what SBI is. SBI Holdings is a huge bank holding company out of Japan. A couple of years ago, SBI Holdings came and bought 10.5% of Ripple, the company Ripple, which also means that, of course, they would own 10.5% of Ripple's XRP holdings. That's what I assume. Well, the second that they formed that, the second that they bought that ownership, they went and formed SBI Ripple Asia, which is in this article here. SBI Ripple Asia went straight back to Japan and went and formed SBI Asia in Japan, and then they formed what's called the Japanese Bank Consortium. That Japanese Bank Consortium is comprised of around 60-something of the banks in Japan, which account for 80% of the banks in all of Japan. Okay, that's all significant to know. All right, so what we're seeing now, this has all been in the works. The plan for all of this has been in the works for the last couple of years. One of the main things that the whole goal of this bank consortium is to tie all these banks together so that money can move from bank to bank, but not just from bank to bank, but from individual customers' bank accounts into other individual customers' bank accounts across those banks. So the significance of this article that you're looking at is it's SBI to roll out Ripple DLT-based payments app on iOS. The payments app is called MoneyTap. And this is literally, they're starting it with 3 banks. It's being rolled out to SBI Net, Sumishin Bank, Saruga Bank, and Razona Bank. And then it's later going to be rolled out to the other 61. But the customers initially with these 3 banks are going to be able to literally transfer money from their app on their phone, and I'll show you the app. This is the MoneyTap website. If you want to look at the website, it's moneytap.jp. But this is the actual app here, and they will be able, those customers at those 3 banks, and eventually all of those 60-something banks, will be able to type in 100 yen. I want to send it to such and such, and it'll send it from their bank account into the other person's bank account at one of the Japanese Bank Consortium banks. That is huge. It's never been done before. And so, but here's the final point that I want to make in this. and the CEO of SBI Holdings has said before that he believes that XRP, it's just a matter of time before XRP is the global standard. Now, this is the CEO of SBI Holdings. He is in control of this Japanese bank consortium, and he has every incentive for XRP to grow in value. Do you think that maybe this guy is on the inside and knows what's going on and is going to go out of his way to get XRP involved? Now, granted, he couldn't possibly get XRP to be used in these banks if it was not going to be effective or save them money or, have a benefit to these banks. But guess what? As I keep bringing up to you, I brought up earlier today, the Royal Bank of Canada, the largest bank in Canada, they have given everyone all the evidence they need that XRP can save these banks 40 to 70%. If the largest bank in Canada believes that, trust me, all of the banks across the world are going to figure it out really quick. They're not going to get left behind. They won't be able to survive if other banks are saving that kind of money and they're not. It's just a matter of time. Okay, now I am going to tell you my story. I called this I had people making comments and sending me emails wanting stories. And then I also see a good bit of people, and especially younger people, that are hurting financially, and maybe sooner rather than later XRP will change that for a lot of people. But in the meantime, and even if XRP does go exactly where we think it's going to go, you still have to know how to make a living, because the one thing I've learned about life is that it doesn't matter who you are. You're going to get kicked. You're going to get knocked on the ground. You're going to have your back against the corner. However you want to say it. Bad things happen to good people, and that's just the way life works. And so the story I'm about to tell you is a story from my life when my back was against the wall. There was a time in my life when I guess my son was my first child was probably 3 years old, and financially my back was completely against the wall. I did not know what I was going to do. I was unemployed. I was had no clue what I was going to do. I had to figure out how to support my family, how I was going to feed this child, and it came out of nowhere. There was no way that I was put in a situation out of nowhere. And so I was lucky, and the reason I'm telling a lot of you this story is I was lucky growing up in that I do have a father who was a very confident person and taught me to be confident and taught me to think in terms of confidence and in terms of the glass is half full and it's not half empty. And so the idea of failing those type of thoughts, I was taught to never let those type of thoughts enter my mind. And I don't think I think I've told my wife this story. You're about to hear something. I don't even remember if I told my wife this story, but here it goes. At the time I was very scared. And I would wake up. I was determined that I was going to figure out how to make it work. But I was in a situation where I was at such an age that I didn't want to have to start all over. And so the way I saw it, I needed to start my own business and do my own thing. And so my idea was that I was going to, I'm a goal-oriented person. I decided that I was going to sit down and I was going to write down the things that I needed, the things that my goals were. What the ultimate thing I would need is, how much money do I need to make? What do I need to do? What are some ideas of things that I could do? But here's the crazy part, and many of you may find this pretty. You may find it strange, but this is something I did, and I can't explain it to this day. One thing that I wrote down on my sheet of paper, because never in my life had I ever, money was ultimately the problem. Never in my life had I been in a situation where people were mailing me money. But as I was sitting there trying to figure out how I was going to get myself out of this hole, one of the thoughts that crossed my mind is, wouldn't it be great if I had my own business and I was doing well enough where people are actually mailing me checks. I had never received a check in the mail. When I wrote this down, I had never received a check in the mail in my entire life for anything, as most people don't. So what I wrote on that sheet of paper that day, and I had it on a clipboard, and I have that same type of clipboard that I use every day now. I wrote it on a sheet of paper and I taped it on that clipboard, and it said, and this is exactly the way it read, it said, I love going to the mailbox every day and checking the mail because I have checks coming to me constantly. And I wrote that down on that sheet of paper. And here's where it gets really strange. Every morning I would wake up at 5 to go downstairs and to search the internet and figure out what I was going to do and how I was going to go about it. But before I did any of that, every single morning at 5 o'clock, I would read that statement over and over and over. And after I read that statement, and this is where it gets even maybe a little stranger, I would literally close my eyes and picture myself walking to that mailbox and getting the checks out of that mailbox. Now, I can't explain this to this day, but this is 1,000% true. And keep in mind, this is not, I don't want anybody that's listening to this, I don't want anybody to think that what I'm saying is that all of a sudden I was just going to bed each night and then all of a sudden I woke up and I go to the mailbox and there's checks there. That's not how life works. I'm talking about telling myself what's going to happen and then following that up by hard work and by constantly looking to find ways that it could be done. But this literally happened. I wrote that down. Within 1 month, and I'm not going to get into the details of how and what, because that's really not important. The important thing is that I planted a seed. Within 1 month, I had a $50 check come in the mail. I can remember it like it was yesterday, showing my wife that $50 check, and I can remember her saying to me, how are we going to live off of this? Within another month or so, I was having $200 to $400 in checks coming in the mail. Within 6 months of that time, and I exaggerate to you not, I had thousands of dollars every single month coming in the mail to my mailbox. And to this day, as I sit here today, I go to my mailbox every day and there are checks in my mailbox. And as I said, it's not just writing it down and wishing and hoping and hoping that something would happen, but it is writing it down, planting that seed. And I saw myself doing it, and then I put in motion plans and hard work to make it happen. And so to this day, that is what I do. It's part of the reason that I'm able to sit here and do videos for you, because I'm completely independent and I do this for myself now. I'm going to finish this by giving you two things. The first thing is I want to read you a quote. It's by Earl Nightingale. I've told you about the strangest secret before, but this is for all you young people out there who maybe you're hurting financially right now. Maybe you just don't know what to do. But remember this. Put it on your wall. It says, Earl Nightingale, he said, people are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want. And if they can't find them, make them. Now that is profound. Okay, last thing I want to leave you with is, as long as I'm inspiring, I'm going to leave you with something that inspired me and even inspired my 6-year-old. I am not a guy that likes to go to the movies and watch musicals. I do not watch musicals, never have liked them. But a few months back, so for some reason, I don't know why, maybe I just saw the preview for it, but something told me to not just go see this movie, but to take my family to it. And ever since I did, my 6-year-old, he watches this movie over and over and over, and I thought that he would hate it more than anybody. But the reason I think you should all go watch it if you haven't seen it is because not only is it a great musical, but it is also very inspiring. It's called The Greatest Showman, and Hugh Jackman is in it. And Hugh Jackman, once I saw this movie, I said, well, and I even sent him a message at one time and told him, I said, forget X-Men, this is your greatest work. But The Greatest Showman is the story of P.T. Barnum that started the circuses, and it's a very inspiring story, and it gives you a lot of great life lessons. And you can rent it now on Amazon, and I encourage everybody to go and to watch this movie, because it takes you through all of the ups and downs of life. The guy he's born poor. He talks a girl into marrying him who's wealthier than he is and promises her the world. He fails at first, and then he succeeds, and then it goes to his head, and he almost screws his life up, and then he finally realizes what's important. So any of you that haven't seen it, I really encourage you to watch it. I am not an investment advisor. I am the digital asset investor, and this is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe to my channel and tell your friends and family about it, and hit the like button if you would. That'll all help out. I wanted to tell you guys one last thing. I've gotten some emails and feedback on the WireX card. Many of you have bought the WireX, the payment card for cryptocurrencies, through the description of my link. But it was brought to my attention by some of you, as well as WireX people themselves, that just because you go and sign up for a WireX account does not mean you've got the card on the way. What you need to do, and you can find out all this in the help section. But first, once you open a WireX account, you have to make sure that your account's verified. Okay? And the other thing is that the WireX cards you still can't get them if you're a U.S. resident. That doesn't mean you can't open an account, but you can't get the WireX card yet. That'll be down the road. But for those of you that can, you have to make sure that your account's verified. Then, to order a card, you go to the dashboard, you scroll down to order cards, select the needed card type. In the order new card window, you click get the card, and then you follow these steps. Review your personal details, click place order. So you got to go do those things. So you don't have a card on the way just because you went and signed up for an account with WireX. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that. Well, I hope everybody has a good weekend, and I hope you enjoyed my video, and I will be back. Thank you.